When I was a kid, people actually took time off in the summer, including the people making TV shows that ran on the 4 stations that we had back then. So in the summer, we got reruns. Here at Qiological, we're taking the month of July to, as they say here in Missouri, go fishing. I'm looking at it as some yin-tonification in the middle of the greatest yang of the year. So for the month of July, I've got some reruns for you that you've likely not heard because they are some of my favorite conversations from the early days. You may or may not know that before Qiological, I did a podcast called Everyday Acupuncture. It was aimed at the general public, and so we didn't get all deep and geeky with the medicine, but it turns out a lot of acupuncturists listen to Everyday Acupuncture, and it was your interest that sparked Qiological. So I hope that you'll enjoy these pre-heaven conversations from before Qiological was Qiological. When I lived in Taiwan, there was a little tea and antique shop on the corner of Yongkang Street and Alley 52 where I lived. It was an inviting place, and I kept thinking in those early days, one day when my Chinese is better, I'm going to go in there. Up until the day I thought, I don't care about how lousy my Chinese is, I want to see what's in there. What was in there was a gateway into Taiwanese tea culture. What was in there was a man who became a good friend over the years. I'd go there often to drink tea. It was a pleasant way to work on my Chinese in the wild. I got to meet people from all over the island and from all walks of life as well. I had the opportunity to learn about Taiwanese culture, thought, humor, and generosity. The E2000 teashop was a portal into a world that rhymes with every cup of tea that I drink today. I do love tea, and I love tea shops. Today is a recording made on one of my trips to Taiwan. My friend Pia Giamassi, who you can catch over in episode 120, we were discussing the archetypes of Confucius and Carl Jung. Pia takes me to one of her favorite local tea shops in Kaohsiung, Taiwan. Today's episode is a taste and audio form of what it's like to spend a little time exploring tea in a traditional Chinese tea shop. And here's the really wonderful thing. These kind of tea shops are all over Taiwan. It truly is an extraordinary aspect of Taiwanese culture, and I'm delighted to share this with you. These conversations come to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. Blue Poppy, your new one-stop shop, has speedy shipping options on everything that you need for your clinic. It's Women's Health Month at Mayway Herbs. Check out their new website for learning resources on helping women with herbal medicine. Are you a creature of habit? How about making a change that helps your patients and the planet with AccuFast needles? And later in the show, raising your fees doesn't have to be a difficult process. Jane has helpful suggestions on making it easy and effective. And finally, have you considered that having a thriving, profitable practice is one of the most healing things that you can do? Julie Bear Don't Walk has, and she can help you do something about it too. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Qiological website to take advantage of all the special offers our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast. Picture this. Your clinic is buzzing with patients, and then you realize that you're down to your last box of needles. No need for panic, because Blue Poppy, your one-stop shop for all your acupuncture needs, they ship orders received before 3 p.m. on the same day. With a quick visit to Blue Poppy's website, you can order premium needles, herbal formulas, and that special Dr. Bob's oil that your patients love. Blue Poppy understands practitioners can't keep patients waiting. That's why they strive to get you what you need when you need it. From high-quality Chinese herbs and formulations to acupuncture supplies and clinical essentials, Blue Poppy has served practitioners for nearly 40 years with products that meet the highest of standards. Discover everything Blue Poppy has to offer by visiting www.bluepoppy.com, and don't forget to subscribe to their mailing list for exclusive offers and more.
Hi folks, I'm Yvonne Lyle, president of Mayway Herbs. May is Women's Health Month, and as a women-owned and women-run business, we especially love how Chinese medicine can support wellness through every stage of a woman's life. So in this month's newsletter and podcast, we're covering topics like PMS, pregnancy, menopause, and osteoporosis. We'll share expert insights and effective treatment strategies you can put to good use in your clinic. Our Plumflower brand line includes herbal tea pills, tablets, extract granules, and organic herbs, all of which you can find on Mayway.com, and where you can also find articles, videos, and other resources to support your practice. Since 1969, Mayway has been a trusted source for high-quality herbal products. In these challenging times, please know that we remain committed to keeping our products accessible and affordable so you can take care of yourself and your patients. As always, thank you for supporting Real Chinese Medicine.
Daily habits and routines feel comforting, familiar, easy, automatic. That's the power of repetition. You've worked out the kinks and can do it with your eyes closed. But what if you shook things up? What if you ditched the old routine and tried something new? Hi, I'm John Sten. I've practiced acupuncture for over 30 years, and together with my wife Kelly, we created the world's first eco-friendly acupuncture needle. The AcuFast earth-friendly needle system cuts your packaging waste by 60 to 90%, depending upon your needle type, speeds up your needling, gives you more control, and best of all, while you're healing patients, we plant a tree for every 2 boxes your clinic uses. Thousands of acupuncturists have already made the switch. In just the last year, they've helped plant over 16,000 trees. Since we started, that number has grown to over 50,000. So break the routine. Be the change. Visit acufastneedles.com. Your patients and the planet will thank you.
欢迎光临，我们一起享受台湾的长茶。Welcome everyone. Let's go explore some extraordinary Taiwanese tea. Hey Pia， 我们去喝茶好不好？
太好，我带你去我朋友的茶馆，不是茶馆，他卖茶的地方 teashop。
Okay. We're going to go to your friend's tea shop. All right, let's head on out.
Just around the corner from my house. Lucky you. And
这么方便.
Yeah.
Convenient for you.
Not only does he sell tea, he makes the tea himself too.
All right.
And they've just gotten their chun cha. Oh, you can open the door here.
The chun cha. What kind of tea is chun tea?
Chun cha is it's the oolong tea, and it's the spring growth. The spring bloom.
Okay, so this is the new spring bloom that we're going to go check out.
Yes.
Okay, so we're here in
Kaohsiung,
Taiwan. Southern part of the island.
Yep.
And we're headed to Pia's friend's tea shop. We're walking along the street. You'll probably hear motorcycles and...
Yeah, it's the land of scooters here because it's much easier to park, and it's just too hot. It's too hot to sit in a car. Well, it's much easier to have it's much more comfortable to have the breeze as you scooter along.
Well, and not to mention that finding a place to park a car around here?
Oh, yeah.
Not so easy.
Now, my friend in Taipei says that she sees an empty parking space on the side of the road. She feels like parking just out of spite.
Just so I can have a spot.
Just so that I can say I've parked in Taipei.
Well, the nice thing about Taipei is, while scooters are very convenient there, the mass transit MRT system is phenomenal.
Yes. But not the same. I mean, Kaohsiung actually has a pretty good system, but you have to... first of all, do a lot of research, and second of all, you have to be very patient for the buses to come. And most people don't, so it's not really, it's not as convenient as Taipei, and most people don't take public transportation.
So you got to ride the bike, scooter it up. Except for us, we're walking around the corner.
Scooter it, there is the underground now, which is pretty good in Kaohsiung. For like if you're just here visiting the city, it'll get you to most places you want to go.
Well, conveniently, we're just walking around the block right now. So, yes. Pia, tell us a little more. We've got some spring tea coming up.
Yep.
What other kinds of... And what's the name of this cat? Who is this guy that we're going to go visit?
Mr. Lee.
We're going to see Mr. Lee for tea.
Yep.
All right. So in addition to the oolong teas, which Taiwan is very famous for, what other kind of stuff does he carry?
He primarily sells oolong, but he has a little bit of Dongfang Meiren.
Oh, now that Dongfang Meiren that's more of a northern tea, isn't it? Isn't that from the north part of the island?
A little bit farther north, but actually, it's a type of leaf which is different than the oolong type, but it also has to do with the little there's bugs that come and bite the edges of the leaf, and they leave a little bit of their saliva on it, or their chemical, whatever they excrete, and that has a chemical reaction with the leaf that adds a honey flavor that characterizes the Oriental beauty.
And that's where the Dongfang Meiren's flavor comes from.
That's where the Mei
of the
Dongfang Meiren comes from. Yes. Wait, we gotta wait. Peaches is not catching up. She's got short legs.
Okay. Here in Taiwan, you can take little dogs to the tea shop. It's totally a cool thing to do. 李先生，我们现在喝的是什么茶？ What kind of tea are you making for us here?
现在我们喝的是台湾高海拔的梨山茶。
So it's very high. It's a very high mountain called Li Mountain, Li Shan, and it's the oolong tea from there. Okay, so it's the largest area producing tea at the largest and at the highest level producing tea, and it's kind of like on the edge of two counties between Nantou and Taichung.
So it's basically the middle part of the island.
Yes, the high mountains in the middle.
Great. So we've got hot water here. We've got a lovely little teapot and some cups, and looks like we're gonna have some tea here in just a minute or two.
Yep. Yeah, the serving pot was made by his friend, and it's done with it's done in a kiln that they use wood to fire it.
Kind of a raku.
Rustic.
Yeah.
A little, it's quite rustic.
So what's this called? Because we've got a teapot here, and then it gets poured into a.
It's called cha hai.
Cha hai.
The
A
sea
tea
of tea.
ocean.
Ocean of tea. Yes.
Ocean of tea.
Yeah.
It's another pot, basically.
Yes.
So.
Because the tea can't be sitting in the water for too long, or else it will you can't let it give too much in one
Washing.
Yeah.
Of the leaves.
Yes.
Yes. I can help you with your English.
Brewing of the. All right, here it comes.
All right, this is the first washing. Now, some of these oolong teas, you can brew them, you can wash the leaves a lot. 李先生，这个是很耐泡的吗？
很耐泡的。
也是耐泡的， so you can wash it. 大概几次可以泡？
最耐泡的茶就是台湾茶。
就是台湾。
就是台湾茶，像我这样泡可以冲12次到16次回冲。
Okay, so these Taiwan teas are really robust, and you can wash the leaves on these like 12 or 16 times. And so you can brew up a lot of tea from just a few leaves.
Yes. But mind you, it's using the very small Taiwanese-style teapot. You couldn't do that with a giant pot of water.
Right. So, Pia, tell us a little bit. You've done a little bit of study with tea. And tell us about these small teapots and the process that Mr. Lee is going through here to extract the flavors. A lot of people in the West think that this is some kind of a ceremony. No. I'm not sure about your thoughts on this. It seems to me it's just more of a really handy technology for getting to know something about the character of the leaves and enjoy some tea along the way.
Well, historically there have been a lot of different ways to make tea. It's been, like in the Tang Dynasty, it was powdered and whisked in a bowl.
Sort of Japanese style?
Yeah, the Tang Dynasty, Japan, a lot of the culture went over during the Tang Dynasty and has remained there. It's lovely, huh?
李先生，这个是第一泡，可是味道已经很丰富的。So this is the first washing of these leaves, folks, and often with the first washing, it's a little bit weak. It's not that fragrant. It's not that full yet. But this is already just the first washing of the leaves, and it's incredibly delicious tea. Very full flavored.
对，这个
已经
茶是
很丰富。
很好的茶，非常优质的茶。
Yeah. This is very high quality. It's a
Now,
very high quality.
did I
spring
hear
tea.
him say correctly that this is one of the, like it won an award or it's an award-winning tea?
No.
No.
It's just come down from the mountain, so it's very, very fresh. It's the first of the spring teas from Lee Mountain. To just continue a little bit what I was saying before, there have been a lot of different. There have been pressed tea cakes. There have been teas that have had like times during tea history, the tea culture, in which they've had to cook the tea in a pot and they cook it with medicines. That was also an earlier stage of tea. And at this point now in Taiwan, it's within the culture they use these very tiny teapots, and it kind of condenses the flavor in a way that you don't need to brew it for very long, so that each brewing of the leaves is very distinct, is very powerful, and it's very concentrated.
And it seems like you don't drink the same tea all the way through. I mean, the flavor can really change over the course of washing the leaves.
Yes. 在泡茶的过程里面，第一泡的那个它放出来的内容物，跟中间跟后面的那个从化学层面的，
没有茶叶再泡，从第一泡到最后一定是慢慢。
All right, so it has a lot to do with the way that the tea is made. It's rolled into these very tight balls, and so when the hot water goes on it, they open a little bit, so they're giving a little bit of the flavor, but it has the different kinds of if we look at it from a chemical perspective, the greatest amount are at the very beginning, but then towards the middle of the third, fourth, fifth brew, you get that the leaves are much more open, and so they're giving a lot more, and so that's why the flavor seems to get a lot stronger and thicker. And then it will slowly get less. It'll become more and more. The kinds of flavors it'll slow down.
Yeah. Yeah. The flavor profile really does change as the leaves, as they get wet and they open up. Mm-hmm. I think maybe in the beginning you seem to maybe get more of the volatiles.
Yes.
More of the flowery
the very
volatiles.
Subtle ones that they come and go very quickly.
They come and go quickly in the first washing or two, and then you get these sort of more sturdy flavors that come through later.
I've lost half my English.
I noticed.
Yeah.
That's okay. 慢慢讲。我现在帮他练习英文，因为他现在他的英文有一点点糟糕。I mean, it can really be funny with the language this way.
Yes.
That the two languages can kind of mess with each other, and we can either forget our words, or the grammars get mixed up. So you might be using English words with Chinese grammar, and
or the terminology, because I have learned all about tea in Chinese, and the same with Chinese medicine. I studied all in Chinese. I can't talk about it in English. I have no idea.
It's much harder
how to talk about it, how to speak about Chinese medicine. Or about Buddhism, a lot of Buddhism, and like the things that I've studied in Chinese, it's really hard for me to express in English.
It's really hard. Well, I can tell you I made a big mistake almost 20 years ago when I first came to Taiwan to learn some Chinese, because I thought if I understood Chinese medicine in Chinese, I'd be able to explain it better to people in English. Guess what? It took me further from the mark.
Oh.
Right?
Oh.
So I can understand how you would have this issue. You've learned it in Chinese.
Yes.
Taking it into English, we have the words, but there's so much experience that happens in this other language. It's hard to catch the nuance.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and if you wanted to speak normally, you can't be sitting there thinking of like an appropriate choice of words.
No, because it gets in the way of conversation.
Right, like the volatiles. That was perfect. It was like, oh yeah, that is so perfect. It's exactly what I wanted to say, but conceptually and the way it's expressed is completely different than Chinese.
How would you say volatiles in Chinese?
Oh, okay, now you're testing my Chinese. But
No, I'm just curious.
For the flavors of the tea that you were just talking about,
Yes.
it would be 它前面的比较维系的一些味道。
微细的味道.
But that's not exactly right, because now I'm thinking I'm like half in English and half in Chinese.
Okay.
So my brain is all mixed up.
Maybe Mr. Lee would know. Could we ask him?
Yeah. 你会怎么描述前面的那些比较很快就分发的那些味道？ I love coming here. His explanations are so clear and concise, and really, like, he's got so much research in his back pocket that he can talk about it from a scientific, but also from a very everyday, like, combining them. So basically what we talk about is like as the fragrance, the flowery fragrances, which don't last for very long, even in the wild. Like the fragrance of a flower kind of comes and goes in little whiffs. So it's those delicate, subtle, flowery fragrances. Whereas the body of it is more, it comes out into the water itself. Whereas the fragrances kind of ride on the water, whereas the body of the tea, which is the more like there's actually bits and bobs in the water, like that color the water and that thicken the water, and the oily parts and whatever, that is where the body of the tea, it's actually infused into the water, whereas the fragrances kind of ride on the water.
Kind of rides on the water. And you know, the thing that I found really interesting about, well, the oolong in particular and Dongfang Meiren as well, and a few other teas, once you've finished the tea in your teacup, there's still some fragrance that lingers in the cup. You can sort of put it up to your nose and breathe in through your nose, and you'll get this intense, it's either sweet or honey, but there'll be some kind of flavor that's similar to what you taste with your tongue, except you're actually tasting it with your nose.
他刚才在说明说，那个喝完了，杯子里面还会留香，很好的茶就有这样子的。
所以我们也不是，也不是说跟南传那边的深有很深的那个根啊，没有，我们大概就接。
So we're talking about Buddhism.
That's what in the north and south.
North and southern, yeah. Northern and southern is kind of like, it's more like Theravada and Mahayana. Is probably better names to use about the differences. Just slightly, we're talking a little bit about the differences.
And which would be associated with north?
The Mahayana.
The Mahayana.
The northern. And southern, because it was, the Theravada tradition was preserved much better in Southeast Asia. So it's called the southern tradition. She started learning in the northern, but then Miss Yang ended up just really resonating with the southern, with Theravada tradition, and practices that.
This episode is brought to you by Jane, the clinic management software that honestly just makes running a practice easier. Let's dive into something that's never easy, but sometimes necessary: raising your fees. It can feel awkward, right? But here's a tip that can really help. Consider offering flexibility to your patients as you introduce the change. When patients face new fees, it's natural for them to feel uncertain or concerned. That's where flexibility can really make a difference. Offering options like a phased increase, suggesting a payment plan, or even taking a moment to talk things through can help to ease the transition. These thoughtful gestures show your patients that you're listening and care about them, which strengthens the trust you've worked so hard to build. If you're looking for more ideas on how to navigate these kinds of changes, head to frontdesk.jane.app and check out the article, How to Tell Clients You're Raising Your Fees. One last thing, if you're ready to give Jane a try, you can use the code Qiological for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. 可以有泡我们上次在这里喝的红乌龙。
好，好，没有问题。
好。 So I've just asked Mr. Lee if we could drink some of this red oolong. I was here last week.
其实那不是叫红乌龙。
哦，应该叫
红乌龙跟这个种花酵的。
At the beginning of the process, there is heavy oxidation of the leaves before, or fermentation. Some people call it fermented. Some people call it oxidation. Before it goes into the drying process. And that's the very traditional way of making it. And so traditionally this was just oolong, but oolong now has become associated with a much greener, with a much less fermented or less oxidized tea. Whereas this was the traditional way of drinking it, was the way that he makes it.
So back in the day, they made it like this.
Yes.
Now they've gone to these lighter, sort of more of a blue-green tea.
Yeah.
It's a little oxidized. It's not quite green tea, which has very little or no oxidation.
No oxidation.
It has a
Green
little
tea has
bit
no
of
oxidation.
oxidation.
Yeah, green tea has up to 5%, whereas the oolong that's out today is like about 12 to 20. Let me check and make sure on those numbers.
Check on that, and then check on the red oolong that we're about to drink.
所以依我的了解，那个绿茶的发酵度是可以到5，还是完全0？
以数据来讲是要0才能叫做绿茶。
So let me first get this part before we go on. Technically, green tea should have 0 oxidation or fermentation, but between the time that it's cut and the time that it's what's called sa-qing, which means to kill the microbes, which means to freeze it in the state that it like they use steam to stop it in its chemical process so that it no longer oxidates or ferments. And in that time, it may, but it's like within the 5% range. And technically it should be 0, but most of the time there's like a time lapse between cutting the tea and actually steaming
Between the
it.
time you cut it and the time that you actually, because it's going to naturally ferment a bit.
Yes,
After
yes.
you've cut it, between the time you've cut it and the time that you actually stop the fermentation, a little bit has probably passed.
But then, like, if it's like a little bit over 5, but not up to the point of oolong, then you have white tea, yellow tea, or what's called qing cha. Qing cha is very hard to translate into English because qing is like a dark green, which
Well, it's kind of a greenish blue, as I understand
greenish bluish. Yeah. It's an algae kind of a color. Yeah, or the color of darker, deeper water.
Especially like up in the Pacific Northwest where I used to live. We would have kind of a qing color.
Yeah.
And, depending on the day, it would look a little more blue or a little more gray or a little more green.
Yeah.
So that's another step up in fermentation. What comes after qing cha?
There are a bunch of first he gives like the overall map of all of the teas. So there's the green completely unfermented, there's the slightly fermented white, yellow, and the qing or the blue green. And then there is the partially fermented range, which is which is the largest range. And then there is the what is called red tea, or what we call black tea. And then there is in Chinese, which is fully fermented. The red tea is a fully fermented tea. And then there is black tea, which is a post-fermented process. It has a process of post-fermentation, and it's called black tea.
And that would be like your pu'er teas.
Yes, pu'er tea. And there is a tea which is called black tea. Hi. 这是 Michael， 他来自美国，他是一个中医师。
No, it's great. Sometimes people just come in. We're hanging at a tea shop. People in Taiwan come in, they hang out, they drink tea, and this is Mr.
Lawyer Wu.
And so tell us what he just said.
Right. So Lawyer had some very good points about tea being part of the culture. And it's an everyday thing. It's just part of everyday life, in like a lot of things, things that have curative or preventative properties have become just a part of the everyday life, or a part of the cycle of things which people eat and drink. And so tea is also can be called a medicine because it helps our skin and other things. 前面有提到什么的我忘记了。That's right. So earlier he was talking about tea, like in England that they've got the afternoon tea, but that's more like for it goes with snacks and everything, and it's but in China it's part of the culture, and he's Lawyer Wu talked about culture as being the things that stay with us after when you sift the rice. And the parts of it that get thrown away are the parts that blow away in the wind, are the parts that are not nutritious. Culture is what's left. It's like the rice that is left in the basket, in the sifting basket, which is full of nutrition, which is full of things that are good for people. And tea is combined, is part of the Chinese medicine is very similar. It's through people's experience and what gets, what is tried and true over thousands of years, which ones are effective medicines and what do they actually do for you. This is it comes through thousands of years of experience of Chinese medical doctors. And the connection between Chinese medicine and tea is the qi. Because tea has qi, and it depends on where the qi flows as to the curative properties of this tea.
Now, I'm glad you bring that up, because I know that in the time that I've been here in Taiwan and we've been hanging out and drinking tea, sometimes you'll talk about, oh, I can feel this tea in my Du channel. I can feel this tea in my Ren channel.
Yes.
Usually when people think about drinking tea, they're thinking about a flavor. Of course, Chinese medicine doctors know that different herbs and different substances will enter different Jingluo.
Yeah.
So talk to us a bit about tea and the Jingluo.
Well, it's the same thing as medicine. I mean, medicines are plants. And their leaves and their sticks and things like that. Well, so is tea. Tea is leaves and sticks and things like that. And they'll have energy because they come from the earth and they grow because of energy. And so if you can quiet your mind and still your body and just make contact either with your hand or with your tongue or through the fragrance with the energy, and you can then feel in your body, what is this energy doing in my body? Then you can feel, is it affecting the stomach? Is it moving along the stomach meridian? Or how does my stomach feel as I touch or approach this tea? How does my, what is moving in the body? Where is the feeling in the body? So if you just quiet your mind, most people naturally have these abilities. It's just a matter of whether you open yourself to them or not.
And in your experience, would you say that different teas enter different meridians?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And does that have to do with the kind of tea or the way it's processed, or it's just its particular unique nature, or maybe even its nature with this particular moment?
Yes. From my experience with particularly strong the energetic experience of the tea is particularly strong with the tree type of pu'er tea. Different areas of the tea have extremely different. They have different qi.
So different parts of the same tree? Different areas where the tree
Yunnan.
is.
Yeah, different parts of Yunnan. There's a river, and then there's one which is called the female side, and then the male side, or the yin side and the yang side
of the river.
Yeah, areas in Yunnan where the trees grow, and the energy is completely distinct. It's distinctively yang and distinctively yin when you drink those pu'er. And the yang is very, from my experience, very concentrated, very pillar-like. It goes to the middle of the body, shooting up into the sky and then down into the earth. Whereas the one from the yin area is much more cloud-like. It's like your body kind of dissipates in a cloud-like sort of a feeling when you drink the tea energetically. It's very, very distinct. But both of them lead to a state of very peaceful and focused mind. But one is in a dissipative focus, relaxed, complete relaxed and letting go, and the other one is a very concentrated but relaxed and focused. It's very, very interesting.
One of the things I really enjoy about Chinese medicine, thinking about these things, that we can get to something like being relaxed from a yin aspect or from a yang aspect. So often we think yang has nothing to do with relaxation. It's very easy to make that mistake.
Yeah.
But here you're talking about that we could take both of these energies and they can each arrive us in a similar place through different methods, so to speak. Different pathways.
Yeah.
Just never know where the conversation is going to go in a tea house.
That's true, because you never know who's going to walk in the door.
That's right.
我们刚刚喝的发酵度15%，这个大概40%。
40%。
对。
45. So this tea, even though it's an oolong, the same as the last one, but the pre-processing before it gets steamed is completely different, and it's Mr. Lee was talking about before, like it can be chemically tested as to.
Oh, Nili Kai, bye bye.
As to, like, if you do an actual testing on it, the oxidation process can be measured. So it's this measuring, and like once you've measured enough tea, you don't need the equipment to measure it. The old masters didn't have equipment to measure.
They just know how to do it.
They knew how to do it. They knew how this color and this amount of the leaf has turned red, that it is at this point of oxidation. And they know that this is, if they wanted to turn it into an oolong like we're drinking now, a very traditional, more earthy flavored oolong, then they would have to, let it wilt and oxidate to percentage, that level.
And he said this one that we're drinking now is oxidized at about 45%.
45%, yeah. It's very traditional, very traditional flavor and
the color is so different. The color of what we were drinking before was sort of a yellow-green, and this is more of a golden amber.
Yes. So it's more earthy. So here's our friend. He's a radio personality who does interviews on the radio. He's asked me a few times to do an interview. I haven't.
You should.
Yeah.
Why not?
Oh, I don't know what to talk about yet. Just think about something to talk about.
You could talk about anything. You could talk about tea like we're doing right now. Yeah, why not go on the radio? You got plenty to talk about.
I wonder if the Taoist is going to come today.
I don't know. I mean, you never know.
Could be.
Who might show up in a place like this?
Oh, well, this is the most interesting tea shop. Very different than others. Many times on Monday, I've been sitting here with a minister. Okay. A minister from who lives in America. She's the daughter of a man who was very old singing personality on television here. Lawyer Wu comes.
Lawyer Wu comes.
Yeah, Lawyer Wu comes, and then there's this man with a long white beard. He's a Taoist master, and there's another man who is also a Taoist, but he's more like in the he does fortune telling. He's a Taoist, but he does fortune telling, and he also has studied Buddhism. And then we have a few businessmen who come, and we have this man who is the radio announcer. And it's a very interesting tea shop.
And there's you.
And there's me.
And the small dog.
And the little dog, yeah.
Yeah.
在录音。
现在在录音。
对。
吵到你。
No。
没有。
这是
因为
这样很自然的。
是。I know I need to get some more of this red oolong to take home, and he said that you can take this stuff and put it in a ceramic container and let it sit for a few years.
Yes.
So you were talking about some of the different teas, the black tea in particular, but this tea as well, that you can let it sit for years and it will get better and better.
Yes, ask Lawyer Wu about this. His house is full of bottles full of treasures, different tea treasures from different time periods. Ask him how long. Ask him what his oldest tea is.
How do you say store? Sun?
春放。
你春放的茶最老的是多老？1981 is the oldest tea that you started collecting. You've got tea from 1981.
But he's got even older tea than that, though. The tea was older before it got to him.
你跟他讲，那是我自己喝存下来的。
Yeah.
我在买的茶里面。
So, like from the tea the oolong tea he started buying in 1981, and has every year he buys a bunch of tea, and some he will store, drink very slowly, and some he drinks right away that year and enjoys it, and then after having experienced oolong teas, he got into pu'er. And some of the pu'er cakes are much older, but they were older before they came into his hands. But from his own oolong tea, starting from 1981, he has a collection of teas from every year from then up to now.
还有买的原茶也有。
That sounds like quite a collection. I'm just getting mine going over the past 15 years.
Well, 15 years is pretty good time. Do you have some nice storage vats?
No, mainly the teas that I store are the pu'er teas. I don't have them in a vat. I keep them in a kind of a cabinet.
Okay.
And I've got a friend up in Taipei who has some old teas, and he will often lay some of those on me, and I keep those in some containers and drink them slowly because. You know, the older they get, the better they are.
Yes.
But I definitely want to get some of this red oolong, and probably drink some when I get home, and then maybe drink a little bit next year and maybe a little bit the year after. Put it in a nice little earthen container.
Yeah.
See what it's like in 5 years. So what's going on here? As these teas, these particular kinds of teas, they sit, what's happening that allows them to keep turning into something else?
Ask Mr. Lee.
Well,
He's the expert.
Okay. You ask him for me.
这个茶放在瓮里面，它是什么样的一个过程？Teas, they will continue their process of a post fermentation. As time goes along, and whether or not you put it into an earthen vessel, there is a little bit more like contact with the air because it's more porous. But you can keep it just in the bag itself.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
好，拜拜。
You can keep it in the bag and it's fine. And there's actually because it's actually more airtight than that, and the process of change, chemical change, will happen much slower.
Having a thriving, profitable practice is one of the most healing things you can do as a healthcare practitioner. Because a robust business is the ultimate expression of vital qi. And that's the heart of our medicine. I'm Julie Bairdontlock, and I help practitioners grow nourishing, profitable, authentic businesses that embody the generative cycle of Chinese medicine. This isn't about all yang all the time. It's about expanding your own internal capacity, growing collaborative relationships with your patients for ethical patient retention, and marketing as an extension of this medicine, not a necessary evil. You already know that everything is connected in your patients' lives and bodies. The same is true for your business. When we align your systems, your schedule, your pricing, and your offerings with you, we create flow, which means more spaciousness, more impact, and more joy. When you are in the flow, fully resourced in terms of qi, time, and money, your business becomes a source of healing, not just for your patients, but for you. Let's grow something rooted, radiant, and real. Visit lifeflowconsulting.com to learn more.
So having it exposed to the air will speed it up.
We'll speed it up, yeah.
But he was saying something about it getting moldy.
Oh, yes. And I asked about, is there a limitation of how long you can keep it? And he said, not really, unless it gets exposed to moisture, which will lead to mold, which will make it undrinkable. Will spoil it.
It'll ruin it.
It'll spoil it, yeah.
So you want to keep it dry.
Yes.
and you want to have it exposed to a little bit of air.
Yeah. Yes.
And you want it to sit for a few years. Or a decade.
Yeah.
Or 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
红龙跟这个有什么不同？
Okay. All right, so now we're going to have a red oolong. This is a little different than the one that we've just had.
Yes.
Mr. Lee is going to pile this up. He's going to chong shui, pile up some tea, brew up some tea. We're going to see how this one is compared to the last one that we had. This is one of the really fun things about hanging out in a Taiwanese tea house is there's so many kinds of tea. They each have their own tasa. They have their own particular characteristic. And not only in just going through a pot of tea and seeing its flavor profile like we were talking earlier, but to be able to sit here and compare some different teas. How's this one a little bit different than that? And also just what it's like, what the feeling is like
Why don't you describe
while we're
the
in
room
here,
for them?
because
Why don't you describe why don't you just describe what's around you?
I'm going to do that. But what I was first going to say was, some different people have come in, they've come out.
Yeah.
Different people are being in the room, change the feeling of the room.
Yeah.
Right? It could be a little quieter, a little noisier. There's just there's just a feeling. So we're in a little shop here. It's probably measured, I don't know. It's I'm not good with measurements, but it's kind of a narrow and somewhat long shop. There are wooden cabinets that hold teapots and little storage vessels for putting the tea in. And then, of course, there are just, I was going to say acres and acres, but that's an exaggeration. But there's all kinds of tea in here. There's little bags here. There's canisters there. I'm going to try to get some pictures for you guys as well so you can see what it looks like. The place is just full of tea. And we're sitting here at Mr. Lee's. He's got this big tea table. And this is really, the tea tables here are interesting because you splash a lot of water around, so these are self-draining. So you can get pretty playful with the water, and it just drains down into a bucket that later you throw away. And we've got all kinds of teapots sitting here, and different teacups. What else? What do you notice in here, Pia?
Well, all right. Well, a little bit. What's really unusual here is that a lot of his friends will buy a pot and fill it with tea and leave it at his shop. So when they come, occasionally, like if there's like a auspicious meeting of people, they will say, take some tea from that pot of mine over there in the back. And so they will offer their tea to the guests who are here, and it's often tea that has been sitting here for 10-15 years, and it's a really particularly delicious one, and it's a community event, and like making friends, like making connections, helping each other out with advice about things, or like oftentimes people will talk about the things that they're dealing with and try to help each other out. As they sit here at this table with whoever may come and whoever may or may not know each other, but you become friends by the end of your time in the tea shop, whether or not you buy tea. You don't have to buy tea when you come into a tea shop.
You just get to bring yourself to the tea shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a unique thing. This is something you wouldn't really find in the United States.
No.
It just doesn't exist.
Not really.
Yeah, this is part of the Taiwanese wenhua.
Beautiful part of the culture.
Beautiful part of the Taiwanese culture. You can just come and hang at a tea shop.
Yeah.
You meet new friends. You get to try different teas. Sometimes you learn a little something about tea. I mean, I'm no expert on tea, but I find that it's delightful to be able to hang out with people who know a lot about tea, because a little bit will sometimes rub off.
Well, this is a very traditional way of tea shop operating. It's it's all about community. It's all about relationships, because sooner or later you're going to need tea and we'll buy it. But not every shop operates like this. But for the most part, like if you go into a shopping mall or whatever, if they have a table out, they're going to make tea for you. You can sit down and try it, and for the most part, they're not going to be pressuring you to buy it straight off. They're just offering you tea. Just
Yeah.
building relationships with your customer base is very important.
I've seen this all over the island in my time here, that there is a certain spirit of generosity.
Very much.
Very big spirit
very
of generosity, and there's something about people just coming together. Like you were saying, people come for advice, they come for some companionship, they come for community. It's kind of a community center.
Yes.
With good tea.
你觉得呢？
是茶吗？
没有，我是说我在讲说这边的文化，其实这个一个茶行不只是茶行。
以茶会友。
From tea, friendships through tea.
Friendships through tea. 以茶为友。
以茶会。
So this must be very precious. It's in a very, very tiny bag. Must be very nice. Good quality.
And it's a different kind of teapot. This one is less rounded and kind of a square looking thing. Look at the color of that stuff. Wow. Go ahead and translate what he just said. That was
beautiful.
Beautiful.
So he says, teapots have personality. Cups have personality. The tea has each tea has its own personality. Even water has its own personality. And so, depending on the personality of the tea that you are making, you need to choose the pot that suits it, the water, and also the cups that suit it. And this is just experience as to how to choose the right one. It's just experience.
And this tea is, it's sort of ruby.
Yeah.
我可以拍照吗？因为现在那个阳光，
Yeah.
真的很特别。Okay.
So this is very technical now. So this is called red oolong because first they use red tea, the process of making red tea, in which they break the leaves in the wilting in the wilting process, and so that there's a lot of oxidation, so that there are more faces to oxidize. So when the leaves are broken up and smashed a little bit, it will oxidize much more fully. And then they start the oolong process, in which they do sa qing, which is like the steaming to stop it exactly where it is, and then rolling it into balls. Whereas red tea wouldn't do that. Red tea is not rolled.
It's not rolled.
And it's not, and they don't also, and it's not steamed. The one he did, OK, 好，这个是这个的，那刚才喝的。
那个叫胭脂乌龙。
Okay, so the one that we were just drinking before is actually done completely as an oolong, but just the process in the beginning of wilting and also allowing the tea leaves to sit and ferment. So first sunning it and then wilting it. So these two processes, the time is just elongated, much longer than with the Lisan tea that we had at the very beginning. That would be a very short time because it's only about 12%. But to 45%, the time, you just need a lot longer time in the sun, sitting and wilting and oxidizing. But you don't crush it.
And with this stuff, you're crushing it
You have
up.
to crush it.
And you're really forcing the fermentation. You're just speeding it up.
Yes. And he just talked about there are two particular chemicals which make it red that will come out in the oxidizing, and breaking it will release a lot more of those it will have that particular chemical transformation. And I don't know the chemical names of those.
That's okay. This tea is delicious and it's gorgeous.
Yes. So, Michael, what are you interested in getting?
Oh, well, I definitely want to get some of that
胭脂乌龙.
Yinzi oolong. And I want to get some of that tea that we first drank.
Ah, okay.
The
Lisan.
the Lisan, 就是刚才做的。我们第一次喝的，不要买一些那个，给我太太喝。
哦，是。
她肯定喜欢这个。I'm gonna bring some of that first stuff home to my wife. I think she'll really love it. And then the Yansan, and then I should probably take a little bit of this.
It's very healthy. It's been 20 years. It's uncultivated. It's not been cultivated, and it's been left in the wild for 20 years, and they haven't cleared the underbrush or whatever. They just kind of go in and take what they get.
So this is wild tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shannon, it's a wild
Yeah.
tea. Okay, so we're going to get some of this wild.
Huh?
Okay.
Huh?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So good.
So his filming of your interviewing is on his Facebook, so you can use his card to take a look at.
Ah, great.
Yeah.
So, well, we can just link to that on the show notes page.
You can.
He already put it up on Facebook?
Yeah.
We were sitting here drinking tea, and this cat,
And we were
like,
live. We were live.
we're interviewing Mr. Lee, and he's sitting there
doing a live broadcast.
doing a live broadcast onto Facebook. I love Taiwan. Well, Mr. Lee, yeah, I'm going to want some of actually each of these that we've had here today because this stuff is just so delicious. Lee Sen-chang, thank you so much for sharing your tea with us today and giving us these explanations, selling me these fabulous leaves that I can take home and share with my friends. 我很谢谢你. Any other comments that you'd like to share before we beat it out of here?
Well, I'm very happy to share my little corner of Taiwan with you and through this wonderful technology with further friends in America, and hope more people can come and enjoy and make Taiwan part of their life more than beyond the podcast.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed this vintage Everyday Acupuncture Podcast conversation. There are 80 episodes, and you can download them to your podcast player from Apple or wherever you go to get your podcasts. Well, here we are at the end of this episode. If you've listened up to this point, you're either a rabid fan of Qiological or the forward button on your podcast player stopped working. If you are indeed a fan of the podcast, you can help us to bring new episodes to our community of practitioners by supporting us with a membership or a one-time contribution. Details, of course, are on the website. That's it for today, friends. Join us again next Tuesday for another thoughtful episode of Qiological.